Well, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to be talking about the potential doomsday tie scenario, 269 to 269. It does seem like this cycle has at least a little bit better of a chance in terms of us ending in a tie than 2020 or 2016, because in 2020 at this time, everyone thought Biden was way ahead. In 2016, everyone thought Hillary was way ahead. This cycle is different. I mean, you'll get pollsters releasing swing states, and like 5 of the states are tied. I mean, it is very, very close, certainly. So there are some scenarios where we could end in the 269 to 269 tie. If that happens, the newly elected House of Representatives decides the president, and then the newly elected Senate decides the VP. And so if you are the Republicans, you kind of wish the Senate decided the president because they've got a much better chance in the Senate. What I always say is I think Republicans for sure are going to win the Senate. You look at the odds right now, I'm going to go to them in a second. Poly market is like 80% chance. And certainly I think 52, 53 seats, it's possible. Moreno in Ohio is probably the biggest 50-50 race right now. Sheehy now is a huge favorite in Montana. We know West Virginia is going to be flipping. And then possibly, I mean, you look at the Rust Belt, Rogers is polling better in Michigan. And McCormick is polling okay in Pennsylvania. Looks like Kari Lake's probably going to lose, but if Trump wins Arizona by 3 or 4, it's possible. So I think Republicans for sure are winning the Senate. That means if we do end in a 269 tie scenario, Vance for sure will be the VP. However, if the Democrats then win the House and it's split like that, they will very likely pick Kamala. So it'll be a ticket of Kamala and Vance. This, I would say, is probably the most likely tie scenario. You could see what it involves is Trump taking Michigan, Pennsylvania, losing Wisconsin, and Harris keeping all the other states. When you look at this, I would say the most unrealistic thing about it is Harris winning Arizona. It does not seem like she's going to win that state. But if this happened, I mean, this is realistic. These are all swing states. It's nothing crazy. This is probably the most realistic scenario. Trump taking Pennsylvania, Michigan, losing Wisconsin. He keeps North Carolina. He loses Georgia. He lost it in 2020. And then he loses Arizona and Nevada. He lost both of those states in 2020. Probably the most realistic one. You could also go with Trump taking the Sun Belt, taking both Arizona and Nevada, also taking Georgia, and then losing the entire Rust Belt, but then winning that second district in Nebraska. Now, this is a little bit more unrealistic because we've seen with that second district, it seems to be trending to the left. I've seen 2 different polls now that have Harris up by 9 and 10 in that district. That's why Republicans wanted to make that a winner-take-all in Nebraska, because if it was, this would be a very realistic tie scenario because it would just be Harris sweeping the Rust Belt, Trump taking all the other swing states. He's looking good right now in Arizona. He's looking decent in Nevada. And then also taking Georgia and North Carolina. He's leading both of those polls. And then, obviously Nebraska would be winner take all. You wouldn't have to worry about winning that second district, but you do. And it would be more likely that she would win that district. And unfortunately, they're win 270 to 268 if this is how it played out. It's her sweeping the Rust Belt and keeping that district, and then keeping New Hampshire, keeping Maine at large, keeping Virginia, losing Georgia, losing North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona. But that would give her the win there. There's also a few other scenarios to look at here. This is just, this was like a CNN article from August. Harris wins the states that Biden won in 2020, plus 4 electoral votes in Maine, but Trump takes back Pennsylvania and Georgia. So yeah, there's that one. She's going to win at least 3 electoral votes in Maine, you would expect. Although you could say the at-large Maine, the 2 electoral votes, she might only be up by like 7 or 8. Maybe it's a swing state. But I could see her winning that district in Maine that Trump won in 2020. It's very close. So if she wins that, but then Trump takes back Pennsylvania, which I wouldn't be surprised if he did, and then also Georgia, again, to me, it's unrealistic. I just don't see a way it would be surprising to see Trump lose Arizona but win Pennsylvania. I know the states geographically are not close, but it just seems, based on how everything is trending, that would be unlikely. Another option you have here is Harris winning the states that Biden won, plus North Carolina. Trump takes back Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, also wins Nevada for the first time, but loses Arizona. Again, it's hard to really see. I mean, there are options for sure in terms of a potential tie scenario, but it's hard to see him winning some of these swing states, but losing Arizona, considering the polls we've sent out of Arizona. But it is possible winning Nevada, losing Arizona, winning Harris winning North Carolina, but Trump taking back Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, so sweeping the Rust Belt, but losing North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona, but taking Nevada, and that ends in a tie as well. And there are many other potential ties. Now, when it comes to the actual odds right now, if this does happen, because again, the newly elected House will pick the president and the newly elected Senate will pick the VP if the 269 ties end up happening. Right now, it looks very good for Republicans in the Senate. Certainly, I think that, this is Poly Market. They've got Democrats at a 28% chance to win. It really hasn't changed the past, since February. I mean, they've been at around 25 to 28% chance. And certainly, I think based on the polls, Republicans minimum will get 51 seats. I think probably 52, possibly also 53. So that should lock in. If this happened to where it was a tie, Vance is the VP for sure. That's locked in. And then when it comes to the House, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult just because of the amount of races that there are. And normally, when it comes to predicting the House, it's based off of who wins the presidency. In this case scenario, it would be tied, so it'd be hard to predict. But right now, it looks like the Democrats do have a slight advantage with a 63% chance. They did go down. That was when Biden was really struggling, down to 45, but now they're at around 63. So it's not, out of the realm of possibility. We could have a tie and Republicans win both the House and the Senate, which would be a victory for them in terms of Trump and Vance being both picked by those chambers. But there's also the scenario where the Democrats win the House, they pick Harris, Republicans win the Senate, they pick Vance. That's also a scenario. I think it's unlikely that we'll get Trump-Walz because I don't think Republicans are losing the Senate. So those are really the options I see. And I would say, when it comes to the scenarios, it's just all of those scenarios that CNN was showing, they involved Trump losing Arizona, but then winning other states like Nevada, or it's unlikely he'll lose Arizona. So I don't think there's a high probability that it ends 260. In general, ending in a tie is going to be a low probability anyways, because you're relying on so many different things to happen. It's just like predicting Trump to win 308 electoral votes or 306 electoral votes. You need a lot to happen to predict an exact number correctly. You need a lot of states to go certain ways. So to predict something like that is very hard. It's a low chance anyways. But this election, you would argue that in compared to other cycles that we've seen, specifically 2016 and 2020, the recent ones, there's a higher probability of it because the polls are so much more tight. You could also argue because of the polling error, it actually means Trump is up significantly more because he always overperforms the polls. That's another thing that you could argue, but I'm just saying based off of the polls, there is hypothetically a higher chance that it does end in a tie. And if it does, right now, the Democrats are the hypothetical, according to Poly Market, favorite to win the House. If they win that, they will put in Harris, and Republicans very likely will win the Senate with an 80% chance. They will put in Vance to be the VP if it ends 269 to 269. And obviously, this isn't even talking about all the infighting that would happen if this does come about and the potential recounts and what a mess that would be. We're not even getting into that. So it would be something, that's for sure. If it did end 269 to 269, Trump's last election, it would be pretty crazy. But I do think that the first scenario that I showed was probably the most realistic, but it would just be Trump taking back 2 out of the 3 Rust Belt states, and that would be it. And from the states that Biden won, while still losing everything else. He takes back 2 of the Rust Belt states, and then that would be the 269 tie. That would probably be the most realistic one. But in terms of this, it wouldn't surprise me if it was a tie, Republicans won both the House and the Senate, and it would be Trump-Vance. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that ended up happening. Worst case, and this is not good, but it would be Harris and Vance. I don't see any way if it's a tie that Vance is not being put in, because I don't see them losing the Senate. So that is kind of where we're at right now in terms of this potential tie scenario. It is not likely, but again, when it comes to I would say the number one potential option, if I remember this correctly, it would be Harris keeping these states, and then Trump, what was it taking? Was it taking this? Oh, yeah, and then Harris, no, it wasn't this. Well, this gets Trump to 270, and then I could see Harris winning this district, honestly, and then that would be another tie right there. So it would be Trump taking Pennsylvania, losing Michigan, Wisconsin, which hypothetically could happen, keeping Georgia, or I guess keeping North Carolina, flipping back Georgia, losing Arizona, losing Nevada, and losing that other district in Maine, so getting swept with the 4 electoral votes in Maine. And then that ends the tie. And Harris also takes the 2nd district in Nebraska, which I think she will, at least right now, based on the polls. But either way, guys, that is just the scenario. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.